Alright, so this is a new series. It's called FortiCap. Basically what it is that I will provide my biggest takeaways from each week in the Warriors season thus far. We're on week 17 currently, so without further ado, let's just hop right into it. The Warriors played both the Hospital Mavericks and the Houston Rockets back to back, and it's clear as day that the Warriors are a worse defense out at the POA. But the thing is, we knew this was going to happen once we traded for Jimmy Butler, which is why I haven't really been tripping about it a whole lot. We kind of knew this would happen. But however, it's getting to the point where it's a problem at the bare minimum level. The Warriors have a massive problem at the POA, and the problem is that they're too thin. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Warriors are among one of the worst teams that give up a ton of shots and points in 2-point territory. This can mean the rim, the paint, the mid-range, which we're really bad at. Guys like Steph, Pods, Buddy, GP2, and Moody are just too thin. In the past, the Warriors have compensated for this issue by having length. Guys like KD, Wiggins, Slow-Mo, and Iggy would have the length to be able to guard at the POA. Obviously, we did have stockier guys like Clay for an example, but that was about it. But now with Wiggins gone, the Warriors can easily get pushed around in the paint. Moody is on the thinner side as well, but he does have the length. He just doesn't have the perimeter speed. So it's a tricky dynamic with him. However, it's clear that the Warriors need at least one more defensive wing that's either stocky enough to wall guys up when they get to the rim or long enough to bother shot attempts. With the addition of Jimmy Butler, they have enough offensive firepower to the point where they're likely going to be able to score enough to win the game. It's just they also need to get enough stops as well. And I'm just done watching Buddy Hield being in the starting lineup and guarding the other team's best guard to start games. It's abysmal. Speaking of abysmal, yo, Buddy Hield, I want you off my team ASAP. This Buddy Hield dilemma is starting to become a real problem in the sense that we can't play him at the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is for him to compete hard on defense and make open/movement shots. Like, he's practically unplayable in that aspect. He's struggling to do that right now. Again, he's too thin at the POA and not making a huge enough impact defensively in terms of off-ball defense. And it's getting to the point where when Buddy touches the ball, I'm mentally prepared for the possession to go to shit. He's either going to miss an open shot, start getting in his bag and getting nowhere with it, or coming off a screen and sticking with the ball for like 3 or 4 seconds and then passing it, ruining the flow of the offense and not making the proper reads. He's such a low IQ player, man. Like, there's a reason why this guy has never played any meaningful basketball in his career, because he's a one-dimensional player. I covered this issue in my Buddy Hield video. He's a spot-up shooter. If he takes one dribble, his percentage drops like crazy. That means that he's only a good shooter in one specific situation. How do you expect to be a meaningful role player on a championship team if you can only score in one scenario? His minutes gotta get cut soon, because every single time I see him on the court, I'ma crash out. You can't even play the guy for spacing purposes. That's how bad it's gotten. Moses Moody has been playing relatively well since the trade, and I'm happy that he's doing so. Even though I do think he's still raw for a year 4 player, he's been stepping up and playing big power forward minutes for the team. Now, people have been getting on Steve Kerr for playing Moody at the 4, and in theory, it doesn't make sense because he's 6'6", he's not the power forward size, his game doesn't match what a power forward would look like, but it's actually not as bad as you think. Moody lacks perimeter speed, he struggles to chase guys off screens and stay in front of him. He's actually the culprit of a lot of blow-bys for this Warriors defense. But what he does have is length and physicality. He's got a 7-foot wingspan and he's a very physical player. Every time he's off the ball and the ball is swung to him for him to finish the play, when he attacks a closeout, he drives hard to the rim and seeks contact every single time. I think he's probably the best finisher through contact on our team. He never shies away from finishing through a defender at the rim. So if you slot him at the 4, it can be taxing, but it fits what he can do best. The rebounding is decently good enough, but the spacing is crucial. When you watch him play, he does do quite a good job of being able to contest shots over the top and guard guys close to the basket. Before we get on to some important things to talk about, it is reported that Kevin Knox has been given a call to leave Santa Cruz and hoop with the Warriors. I think this means that he's taking the 14th spot on this roster, and I'm personally very excited to see how this plays out. I've been high on this guy since Summer League. He's been balling in Santa Cruz. I'm not sure why we didn't call him up earlier, but a 6'9" forward who can really shoot and possesses good athleticism getting downhill. Just what the Warriors would want. More shooting and size in the front court, or just talent overall in the front court. A lot of people are saying that he's the Otto Porter replacement. They've even said that about Guy Santos, but I disagree. Knox and Santos aren't as tough and physical as Otto Porter. Otto Porter was more of a spot-up shooter and a pick and popper instead of a movement shooter. Kevin Knox is not only a great off-ball player, but a damn good movement movement shooter too. And for that, I'm getting Michael Porter Jr. vibes. And I think that's a perfect archetype for this team. Somebody that can literally seamlessly play in this Warriors system. But to make it even better, he's the size of a power forward. If you watch Knox's G League highlights, this guy is coming off of screens, curling and getting downhill with authority, shooting mid-range pull-ups, and back cutting for layups, very similar to MPJ. He also crashes the glass on both ends. It's a luxury to have somebody that can do all that being the size of a forward. Because if you think about it, Steph is likely going to have a small, quick defender on him. Jimmy Butler is going to have a stocky, physical player on him. If Knox is going to play the 3 or the 4, then that player is likely not the same archetype that would chase guys off screens. Just another great move that can truly uplift this roster. Jimmy Butler has been fantastic for the Warriors. They've gone 3-1 ever since the trade. His playstyle covers a massive hole for this Warriors team due to his ability to score in the interior. However, Jimmy needs to stop passing the ball without a created advantage. He can't just catch the ball in the mid post, dribble the ball 3 or 4 times, not break the paint, not look to score, and just kick it back out. I don't mind Jimmy slowing down the offense, but he can't slow it down without creating an advantage. You're pretty much just ball stopping and slowing down the offense for no reason. Now, if he's penetrating and drawing 2 underneath the basket and then kicking it out to a shooter, then that's different because you're creating an advantage. But Jimmy has to be aggressive consistently. This can't be the norm with him every single time. We brought him here to score the ball, not pass. Not to mention he won't be able to draw fouls if he doesn't shoot. Some people are saying that it's because he's tired and not really in shape yet. That I can understand, so hopefully after All-Star break, we should see a shift in hunting for more shots. Some are also saying that that's who he is during the regular season, and then he turns it up in the playoffs. Whatever it is, I need Jimmy Butler to play like a second option at all times, because without him, the Warriors literally don't have anybody else that can fulfill his role on this team. Lastly, Steph Curry has been hooping ever since Jimmy has arrived. He's giving you close to 30 on every given night. He looks like he has belief in this team again. Belief is such an underrated concept, but it's the driving force of everything that has to do with winning. And quite frankly, how can you perform if you don't believe that your team can contend? Before the trade, there were nights where Steph genuinely looked like he couldn't be bothered. Ever since then, he's been smiling and laughing and telling the press that basketball doesn't feel as hard as it once did. And how could it be when you have a bona fide star right next to you? Generally speaking, it's hard to play free basketball if you're competing to win, but you do need some type of freedom in order to perform consistently, and one of the ways to do that is knowing that you don't have to score on every possession to keep your team afloat, knowing that with that guy on your side, you actually have a chance to win. Whereas before, the team lacked talent to the point where if Steph gave it his best, it usually wasn't going to be enough. Overall, I'm just glad that Jimmy has given Steph a reason to get up and compete again.